back, Freeride Fans, to the Freeride Guide podcast. My name is Mark Warner.
And I'm Derek Foose.
And we are back in the same room, Derek.
Yeah, face to face.
Yeah, and there's a unfortunate reason for that.
Yeah, that sums it up nicely. Unfortunately, the Andorra stop, the Ordino Arcalise stop of the Freeride World Tour, officially canceled.
Yep, we kind of saw that coming, though.
I mean, yeah, Spain and Andorra are really in the same neighborhood.
When I was saying that they were like 50 kilometers away, I looked 49.
Yeah.
49.
So really the same neighborhood.
As the crow flies. So same range, same weather systems for the most part.
Same coverage.
So, Andorra was canceled. We didn't put out the emergency pod because I didn't think it was an emergency.
Yeah, as you said.
Plus we did like 3 already that first week of doing this show.
The writing was on the wall, and the announcement was, it felt at the time kind of just like a hoop that had to be jumped through. Mm-hmm. With running that call it emergency comp in Verbier. The writing was on the wall. That was coming, and it is unfortunate. We love going to Andorra. The venue possibilities there are huge. It's probably the resort that has the most possible freeride world tour level venues. Yeah,
let's talk about that. How many do they have?
I mean, there's at least 4 that they've used.
Right.
In the last, say, it's like since 2018, there's 4 different ones that have been used. So it's the terrain's there. They just need the snow to cooperate and be cold enough. They've even had a decent amount of precip, similar almost to what we've had in Whistler, where the precipitation's there, but the temps have just been a little off.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, a bit too much of it has come in the form of clear snow, which is not ideal for skiing and snowboarding.
Right. So we can read the official. I'm getting good at this too. Is reading the official press releases from the FWT. The FWT is sorry to announce that the second event of the season, Ordino Arcalise Pro, has been canceled due to insufficient off-piste snow conditions. Blah, 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 which prevent, So we know it wasn't going to happen. The fact that they've got such a good relationship with Verbier is definitely, it's like that ace up the sleeve for them.
Yeah.
Being able to pull, it was a great comp. Being able to pull it off is the best snow conditions we've seen on a comp for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, good, we can do this. This is no problem. Where it seems like every event for the last 2 years is like sounds like we're sounding like a broken record here. Has just been, is it going to happen? When can we do it? Is it going to be good enough? It's just been a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, and it was a big benefit for us as fans, but I think the group most relieved is the riders, because they have a result on the board now. If we lost 2 and then we come into Kicking Horse in Georgia and you're supposed to get 4 and the best 3 would count, and then all of a sudden you're looking down the barrel of 2, it's going to change strategies, it's going to change attitudes and that. So having one already up on the board, obviously there are certain riders who are now, under a bit of pressure, which is
a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Lots of them.
Half the field in ski men. But it's good. There's a sense of relief in that group that, okay, we've got one down. So now we move on. Of course, we're looking at 2 super different types of terrain, snowpacks, as we move forward to Kicking Horse and Georgia. So who knows, maybe it suits different riders in different ways. We've got a different leaderboard than we've seen in a lot of the categories, with Verbier being first. Some of those real freeride focused, not so freestyle focused riders are sitting pretty up at the top of the rankings.
Right.
And that's great. I mean, that's why we have a diversity of venues, so that you kind of see across the board the complete package when it comes to an overall title chase. So yeah, we're in a fun spot right now. We've got one down, 2 to go before the cut, and then of course finals, Fieberbrunn and Verbier at the end of the season.
Yeah, right. And like back to your point on the different venues, just looking at a kind of in that press release, there's this quote from David Ledesma, I think is how you pronounce it. He's the marketing director at Ordino. After 9 years of uninterrupted FWT action in Andorra, Some of those years were touch and go.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
It still happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Including 3 restaged events held here for a total of 12 events across 5 different areas of the resort. This year's off-piste conditions are difficult and have prompted the FWT to cancel the event. So, like you said, you said 4, there's 5.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just a shame that the snow isn't quite as consistent. And this year it started off so well.
Yeah, they had snow, and I definitely think, just given the big picture situation of snow globally in the shred industry, you can't really paint, or I'm not willing to just paint Andorra with a brush of like, it doesn't snow there, because we're struggling in Whistler. It's tough times in California. Colorado's finally getting snow. It's
East coast of the U.S. is
yeah, exactly.
bone dry.
This is a global issue. So I think that we got to just be a little careful.
We'll tackle that one. Yeah. We'll tackle that on another episode of the Freeride Guide. We'll solve all the climate change problems. But with that in mind, so this episode we're going to get to a handful of BACKSLAP emails. You guys have been sending them in, and that's so awesome. Keep sending them in. You have a question for myself or Derek. You have a comment. You want to give us a slap on the back, or maybe we backslapped on a point. Send them in to backslap@freerideguidepodcast.com. So this one is from, the first is from Nick from Calgary, and it directly addresses kind of what we're talking about. Love the show so far. It's great to have FWT coverage, not necessarily fully funded by the tour. With the cancel,
we're independent.
We are independent. Yes, independent. Well, you're kind of.
I'm codependent.
You're the insider, right? You're the insider. With the cancellation of Bakira and probably the cancellation of Andorra, is it maybe time to consider not having 2 events in the Pyrenees? These are low-altitude mountains that are losing a reliable snowpack. Even in a year where the Alps are firing, the Pyrenees are just too low altitude for reliable snow anymore. There are so many more snow-safe venues that they could host at right now. They don't need to cancel both Pyrenees events, but it seems likely that if one has garbage snow, so will the other. Anyways, on a happier note, you guys are rocking the new podcast, and I am so stoked for the Hedvig versus Justine DFLP Freeride showdown this season. Cheers, Nick from Calgary. Thanks, Nick. So, that kind of question, we just kind of talked about that.
Yeah, it's a heavy topic for sure. There's a lot more. We see this in, I think, in the social media comments a lot too. There's a lot more that goes into it than just pick a place that has good snow and run an event.
Right.
A big part of it is resorts putting their hand up, wanting to host a Freeride World Tour event,
and then opening their wallets.
Yeah, exactly, because it's a spendy endeavor to put one of these things on, and it's a partnership between the host resort, sometimes the tourism board, locally, and the Freeride World Tour. And yes, there are tons of resorts around the world that have the snow and the terrain that could do this, but FWT needs them to put their hand up and say, we want to do it. And currently, both Bakira and Ordino Arcolis have their hand way up. They're all in on FWT, on Freeride. And so that's a huge driving factor in this. Yeah, the snow sucks this year. The venues are insane. I'm going to say when, and I hope I'm not proven wrong by it being if, the snow turns back on at the right time, because that's the other factor, is there was snow there before, and then there wasn't because of weather patterns. But kind of going back to our point earlier, globally, everywhere's struggling. A lot of places, the Alps are firing, but it's hot there right now too.
True.
So I'm not ready, and I will also say that I'm not involved in these decisions at all. But to fully throw in the towel on those 2 resorts, because
with the point though, I want to bring up his point that he made. We don't have to cancel both, but when you have obviously, it's great logistically because they are that close.
Yep.
You do one, you do the next one right away. It's really close, but the drawback is what happened this year. You got poor weather or poor conditions. You're going to double up on that, right? So it's like all your chickens are in all your eggs are in one basket.
Yeah. You got a basket full of chickens.
You got a basket full of chickens right there, you know? So like, it's like, what do you do with it, right? So I don't know. It's interesting. So that makes a lot of sense though.
Yeah.
Because they're both good events. Have one, maybe do them at different times of the year. But like, I don't know. Everything that we talk about with this sort of thing, it really ultimately comes down to the bottom line.
Yeah. And if one of those or both of those, let's say one, just to stay on Nick's point, were to be replaced, you need somewhere to replace it with. And that's going to require somebody else jumping in and saying, I want to do it at my resort.
Right.
And we got the money to do it, so let's go. So I know that the FWT management group is always on the hunt for possible new venues. They definitely want to do another stop in North America. That's high on the priority list. But it's the same issue. The resorts have to come to the table and actually want to do it and see the marketing value in spending that budget on hosting an event.
Right. And another point too is a lot of the resorts that are capable of holding these are now being purchased by these Epic Passes and the Icons and these like ultra conglomerates, which are basically stripping hollowing these resorts out for what they have to offer. And they don't want to spend money on something like that because they don't need to. Right. So like, the ski culture is going through this big shift, and these big ultra mega companies, they don't need the Freeride World Tour. So what are they going to do? Spend money on it when they don't care?
Yeah. Their marketing is definitely aimed in a different direction.
Right.
And those budgets get spent on what they get spent on, and that isn't FWT.
Yeah. So
yes, but also no.
Yeah.
that's the short answer for Nick.
Yeah. All right, Nick. So obviously, that's it. We can't get them off in the Pyrenees this year. Kicking Horse is coming up, and I was there a couple days ago. About 4 or 5 days ago. They had the Wrangle the Shoot, the 4-star event. The day before, a couple days before that, I was in Revelstoke for their 4-star event. And so the Revy event was actually decent. It was cloudy. The snow wasn't terrible. It was a little warm. But I'd skied worse. The comp was actually pretty good. They got the first 3 categories off, and then it got a little too late in the day. And then they had men's ski the following day. And then I ended up speaking to Michaela Davis Meehan, who was on the tour, and I asked her, she's working her way back on to trying to work her way back to the Freeride World Tour. She ended up getting 3rd. She had a great line. She ended up sitting down, but it was still a really good line, and she ended up coming in 3rd. So I actually chatted with her a little bit at the Wrangle the Shoot event a couple days later. And the Wrangle the Shoot event, I don't think I've ever seen worse conditions for a competition. It's not. So just so people know, it's not the ozone face. It's two bowls over on the T1. That's actually where we had the makeup comp 2 years ago.
Yeah, we had to move from ozone and onto that exact same T1 South face.
Yeah, and it went fantastically.
Yeah.
It was a great comp. So it got really, really warm there as well. And I think, as you said off air just a minute ago, the mountain just started peeling away. I got up to the top. They ended up running the women's snowboarding and then had to shut her down because I think this natural avalanches, things were starting to roll around. I skied from the top of the ridge down to the finish line, and it was heinous. It was so bad that just imagining a comp just boggles my mind. So they ended up competing it, I think, the next day.
The next day, yeah.
So yeah, and then to be honest with you, I ended up heading over to Roseland because they had the Canadian Freeride Championships, Junior Freeride Championships there. But I didn't stick around. It looked like it was going to be much of the same, and to be honest, I just wanted to get home, so I ripped home. So trying to keep up on this, the feeder tours. But everybody's struggling a little bit right now, and they're just doing the best they can.
Yeah, the Wrangle conditions after that hot day, it locked up like -4, -5. So all that slush that was peeling off the mountain the next day, it was just rock frozen coral. And it was, the IFSA did a great job with their live cast. They're really sort of pushing, trying to build momentum with the 4-stars and the challengers.
Actually, yes. Can I interrupt you for that? The Revy 4-star was spectacular. The camera angle was amazing. The audio was amazing. The clarity was great just for like a 4-star event. Because I actually watched the women snowboarding at my friend's place, went up the hill, watched the next 2, and then we watched the men's the next day, and it was great. It was like I was really surprised at how good quality it was.
Yeah, big shout out to Finn and Lund, who's handling all the comms for IFSA. He's like dragging this thing into the modern age on his back, and the broadcasts so far of the 2 4-stars that we've had have been fantastic. And it's, even though the conditions were, as you said, just heinous in specifically at Kicking Horse for the 4-star, being able to watch it live is just bringing so many eyes to freeride, and that's the premier level of freeride in North America. One step below the tour, and it's all the athletes that are shooting for the tour across all 4 categories. So it's so cool to be able to actually see it happen live. I watched the Revy one from Europe, and I watched the Kicking Horse one from my living room in Whistler, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So sweet, hey? So like, and to be honest, like, you know what's going on because you are junior freeride coach. You founded Whistler Freeride Club, so you got your nose on the pulse. That's why you're here with me, right? You're the guy who knows. I'm just the guy that asks questions, right? But I didn't know really any of what was going on. Every once in a while, I'd see a results sheet, but it doesn't stick.
Yeah.
Right. But now being able to watch it and become a little bit more, not only informed but engaged.
Yeah, exactly. You start to care about the athletes, and that's exactly what it should be. Those are premier level athletes, And
recognizing names is huge too, right? Being like, oh, that name is familiar. Like, oh, they did well a couple comps ago, and like, oh, where did they end up now? Or remember that guy did that crazy backflip into the ditch or whatever, or whatever it was,
Yeah, and 8 of those names are going to be, tour bound at the end of the Challenger series. So it's good to see the path to get there and see the struggles. I mean, Wrangell was tough, but the good riders still ride good, and the comp results are they're real results, and all the more power to those athletes who did well in those conditions and laced clean runs in tough conditions. It says a lot about the quality, I think, of the riding. It's just so sick to be able to watch them actually do it.
Yeah, freeride's stepping up. It's really fun to watch. I'm stoked to be a part of this. So if you guys are listening to this right now on a drive to one of the events, I was handing out stickers and talking to everybody down in the finish corral. I was like, where are you from? They're like, oh, we're from Tahoe, or you're here, we're from there. I'm like, oh, you got a long drive home, eh? I'm like, I got something for you to listen to. We do have a couple more BACKSLAP emails.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Let's see. We're gonna go with Dill from Rabbit Hill.
Oh, my guy.
All right, you want to read this one?
Oh yeah. So I also grew up skiing at Rabbit Hill. This just makes me so happy to see this. So hey y'all, Dill from Rabbit Hill here. How are points awarded to skiers that NS? So NS means no score. Justine DFLP and Taylor Dobbins had NSs this weekend, but Justine finished with more points. Thanks, and loved listening to your voice for 4 hours yesterday, Derek. P.S. The Ski Men's Rankings link on the FWT website is broken. Well,
yeah, I sent them a message about
we
that.
don't have a lot of control over the website. Thank you for the flattery. Dill from Rabbit Hill. NS, so that means no score. You get awarded no score if your skis come off, or a ski comes off, or you have to unstrap from your board. So it's kind of a sign that your run has ended. The NS points are assigned based on the points that you had up to the point that you no scored.
And did they go to the last season then? Oh, up to the point. Oh, I see.
On the run.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're judging the riders, and they're scoring the run live as they go.
So say Justine had 67 when she crashed, and then Taylor had 54 when she crashed.
Yeah, exactly. So then there is still a ranking assigned, and it goes on decimal points at the end,
right?
So that there can still be, it's not a 5-way, or if you look at Ski Men in Verbier, like a 8-way tie for last, there is still some ranking applied. It's obviously at the bottom of the pile from the event, but then that gives a ranking that can then be applied to the overall ranking. So that's kind of how that works. So they're still judging it, and then from the point that they crashed, that judging obviously stops, and then they rank them against each other for the no score rankings.
Awesome. All right. I didn't know that.
Oh, well.
No, I learned something new.
Guiding the freeride.
I knew something new every day. All right, next up on the BACKSLAP. So we heard from Nick from Calgary talking about he's looking forward to the Justine Hedvig battle this season. This one is from Catherine Fournier-Simard, or Catherine Fournier-Simard, if you want to say it that way. Hi, I only discovered freeride as a competitive sport because I'm a proud Quebecois. I've followed Justine DFLP on IG since her gold medal in moguls. Of course, since I'm a resort skier and I love the sport, I'd seen some videos of freeriding, but I wasn't aware of the competition side. I'm in shock that kids do this sport, actually. I was not that brave at their age. So I've been curious about this. Did the FWT see a spike in viewership from bringing on Canadian ski royalty? I can't be the only one that started watching the FWT because of her IG posts and presence on the tour. Thanks, Catherine.
So we don't have the numbers in front of us of the viewership, but Catherine, I have to think that you are not alone in this. You know, you kind of said it, and I have to agree. Justine has a huge following. You know, I kind of mentioned in the broadcast, in Canada, she is truly ski royalty.
Yep.
Gold and silver at 2 different Olympic Games. It's a big deal, and in our ski community, she's revered.
Right.
And as I said, her following is huge, and her transition into freeride for sure has brought fans of her into becoming fans of freeride. I don't know what the numbers are, but I would
be.
Yeah, I would put money on the fact that a bunch of people are in your exact same position.
Has to be. And I think the FWT knew that too. Like peak performance, she's a peak performance rider, and the FWT knew about this. So we knew about her potentially coming on as a wild card. I found out in Verbier the season before. So this was kind of in the works for a while. I think she had, I don't know if she had reached out to them potentially, which I think, I don't know if she reached out to them or they reached out to her, but she came to Verbier, the extreme final.
In
22, and was just there hanging out, taking in the vibe, you know,
watching the event.
Like,
could I do that?
Yeah, figuring it out. And then, you know, we've covered this on my show, my other show, the LPP. We had her on talking about it. We've talked about it on the show. She came and actually skied with you here in Whistler for a while. So it wasn't like, hey, we'll give you a wild card, see what you can do. It was kind of planned in advance through peak performance, through the FWT. So I think they knew that this was going to be valuable.
She took some really clever steps on the way. She went down to New Zealand and competed in a 2-star and a 4-star in the summer of 22 to try to get herself ready and even just understand what this sport is, how it works, how the judging works, and what the judges are looking for in a run. And so she was as prepared as she could be for someone who lives in Montreal, not in big mountains, and is only traveling further down that path of preparedness now.
Right.
So yeah, for sure. She's dragging a ton of fans into this, and we love it.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks, Catherine, for the email. And we got one more here? I think we got one more. Let's go. Let's do we did Dill from Rabbit Hill. Let's see. We got one more. Oh, I like this one. Hey guys, love the show. This is from Rory and Van. Love the show. Do you guys think that a Netflix Drive to Survive style docuseries could ever happen for the tour? I feel like it would be a great way to get more eyes on it and expand the audience, but would probably be a logistical nightmare. Rory from Van. So I want to comment on this right away. I've been thinking of this for years. Even before I started doing the Freeride World Tour podcast, just as a fan, I was like, I would love to see the behind the scenes kind of thing. They kind of did it. Katie Burrell kind of did something like that.
Katie did it, and then Dom Dayer did it with the What the FWT film that they put out last year, and it kind of toured the film festival, tour.
Yeah.
But Rory, 1,000% yes. We all want that. Logistical nightmare for sure. It would definitely be difficult.
Expensive.
Yeah, expensive for sure. If you think about an F1 track, in terms of like camera access, okay, you need access to a garage, you need access to maybe some hotel rooms for the interviews of the drivers.
Travel.
In this case, you're dealing with the mountains. So you got to have a film crew or multiple film crews that can actually are capable of moving around in the mountains, that can be at the start gate, that can be at the finish area, that can catch catch all the angles and all the inside stuff that's going on. I will say, at least in my experience, and I've got a decent amount of interaction with the riders, we don't have quite so much drama as at least Netflix has portrayed there to be in F1.
Yeah.
But maybe they could just create it. They seem to do that for the...
But
for
you
the
know
F1
what?
guys.
Like, and this is something else I think about too, is F1 this is a sport that people have worked their whole lives for. This is a sport with millions, like tens of hundreds of millions of dollars involved. This is a sport where money is number one. You're not my friend, you're my competitor. Like, this is a major league, next level kind of competition, right? Where a lot of these people don't really care that they're in the tabloids or they're being spoken about because they're in the news all the time. They are public figures. Whereas with the Freeride World Tour athletes, they're just ski bums a lot of the times. You know what I mean? Like, they're not public figures. They're real people that maybe don't have this callus built up because not everybody is posting about them on Twitter or making memes about them, or there aren't like 10 shows. There's only one show about them there's only one podcast about them. There's not 10, you know what I mean? So the level of attention and just scrutiny and the amount of money involved, it's just so much bigger for F1 that to dial it back into something like the Freeride World Tour, I just think about the riders themselves and the people, right? Because, you know, when it's this big production, it's not personal, right? Like, you know who the guys are going to be filming and editing this stuff, right? You're going to see them every day. It's kind of like a family. Everybody's together all the time. Whereas with F1, you know, all of these different, every garage is different, every team is different, every organization is different. But within the FWT, you don't really have these teams or organizations. There's just kind of yourself and the people you hang out with. So I think that to do something like that would be really detrimental to just the individual themselves. Maybe a lot of people can't handle that or don't want that, right? It's a huge difference in scale and scope, not only in production value, but also with impact on the individual themselves.
Yeah, I do think, though, that, as you said, they're maybe not public figures, but just based on what they're doing in these events, they should be. You know, these are extremely high caliber athletes that are performing in a way that for most of us, you can't even imagine. I mean, I sit in that booth and I get surprised out of my skin every single time by how good they are. I think they could present it in a way that's not drama based and more storytelling around the riders and who they are and the behind the scenes, all the background that goes into it. I mean, it's such a heavy lift to make these events happen by the staff, both at the resort and of the FWT, that I think there would be a way to do it that tells the story in a way that is genuinely complimentary to everyone. It doesn't need to be all beef, all drama all the time.
Right.
Like you said, it's kind of a family affair. There's that shared risk that everyone's going through, and the fact that everyone's kind of connected through their shared passion, because this really is, at the end of the day, a passion sport. You know, the skiers and riders on the tour are there because, first and foremost, they absolutely love to do that. And this tour is an opportunity for them to express that and make a living at that and be able to compete at the highest level against like-minded people in the categories. So yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I think it would be tricky to execute it in a way that feels good for everyone.
Yeah, that feels good. You know, like it'd be tough. Like, just being on tour last year, just kind of being a fly on the wall, but you get to know everybody, you get to know these people, and like everybody that's there is interconnected.
Yeah.
So unless you're like able to separate, person, like your job from those interpersonal relationships, like it would be it would be a special person to be like, hey, super nice to someone, and then create something where you're like, this isn't very flattering or
for
down
sure.
the road.
It would have to be handled gently.
Yeah.
But I think it's compelling enough what's going on out there, both on the mountains and behind the scenes, that the story is interesting enough that I mean, now maybe I'm just way too deep into it, so I'd want to watch it because I love it too.
Yeah.
But I think it would be pretty compelling to see exactly what's going on behind the scenes all the time, and really like help these athletes rise to that public figure status, because I really think that's warranted given their skill and dedication to this.
And another thing I wonder about as well too is not necessarily, like what I said before, but like within the tour itself, there's only so much. Like a lot of that show is about the action and like, the qualifying and then the actual racing and then what's going on about the race. With the FWT, there's a lot of it would just have to be like downtime, because there isn't really all that much. I don't think there would be as much to gather when it comes to like the event itself, or like there aren't a lot of like you don't go out in track time. There's no qualifying. There's all these different there's all these extra chances to like capture action, whereas with the FWT, it's that one run, it's that one day.
Yeah, but 6 events, 4 categories.
True. I guess it would just have to be scaled back to a specific length for each episode.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I'd love to see it. But as you can see, I've thought about this a lot. Like, how would it work where everybody wins?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Anyway, it's a cool idea, and Rory, thanks for engaging on it, because it's definitely given us something to
I'm
chew
sure
on.
we'll talk about it a little bit more too. But and also, I guess you'd have to get the athletes to buy in.
Yep. Oh yeah. If they're not in, I mean, we saw that in the first seasons of Drive to Survive. Like the Mercedes guys were not about it.
Yeah.
And Ferrari, and it, all of a sudden now Gunther Steiner is a huge star because Haas was like the center stage.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, Derek and I are huge F1 fans as well. We are in an F1 fantasy league, which I ended up coming second last year. Derek didn't do so well. But we're also in the Peak Performance Fun Bet, which is the FWT Fantasy League, and we want you to join our league. So go and search for the Freeride Guide League. I think we've got there's definitely some space left. I think it's capped at 200. Mm-hmm. I think we've got about 50 plus in there right now, and you can join mid-season. So we want you to join in. We're going to be talking about who we think is going to win. You get to choose 1 through 3 for each category, and then obviously the overall, which I think is kind of past now. But what have we got going for this next event in Golden?
Well, question mark on conditions. We saw what it looked like during the 4-star for Wrangell.
They have got some snow since.
They've had snow since, and it's on a totally different part of the resort, which has been closed for like a month, so it doesn't have that, once the melt came in, it didn't get all banged up and the slush broken up. So yeah, it's also a bit higher. Ozone's definitely higher than T1 South, so there's some optimism. The last time I saw it, it was pretty caked. There was a decent amount of snow on it. We're gonna be getting eyes on it soon, so I'm looking forward to seeing the conditions. Definitely, I think a little bit of a friendlier venue. It's pretty, it's not as steep as what we saw in Verbier. And there's definitely, like, just based on recent history, there are definitely opportunities for the freestyle maestros to really put down some interesting combos.
Yeah. I've heard that like skiers right, lookers left along that ridge there may not be ready to go. But it's just hearsay. I haven't seen it, so we'll see how it goes. But do you have in mind who you think are going to be threats on this face?
It's so hard to pair that apart, because in all the categories you've got essentially the entire field can win if their day comes together.
Well, let's zero in on a couple points then. Do we think we see Max Hitzig's diving board backflip attempted again? Do we see someone else hitting that spot if it's good to go?
I think so. I mean, we saw Hitzig do it, and the reactions were kind of equal parts like, what the hell, and oh, I wish I'd done that.
Right.
So there's definitely a few riders out there that are probably looking at that, and obviously the score was through the roof. So that score's there for the taking if you're willing to risk it. But it is a big risk, and especially like I haven't had eyes on it recently, so I don't know if it's on, if it's going to be in play.
Right.
But I think you'd be hard pressed to ignore it if anytime you go back to somewhere where someone has done something that brought the level up, people are going to be looking at that and going, oh, well, I could do that. He did it. I could do it. That's how these riders operate. And similar with that Looker's Left zone, especially with the snowboard women, like the way Michaela Davis-Meehan rode last year was like truly brought the level up in that event. And so I think hopefully a lot of other snowboard women are going to be looking at that going, hell yeah, that double goes. I can do it. She did it. I'll do it.
Yeah. And as she said, she wants to get back here. She won this event last year, got knocked off the tour, and she's like, I need to get back here.
Yeah. And the other people are going to be looking at her performance last year as kind of a benchmark for what it takes to win that event.
Is that do a lot of the riders like watch the events over and over and over and over beforehand? I'm
Big
sure
time.
some of them do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's they're studying past events, and the smart ones are going into the archives because every year the snow conditions are different. So let's find the year that it was kind of like this year, and see what did people do, what worked, what didn't, what did people avoid completely. Last year there was very little traffic on the rider's left side of the face because it didn't have the snow conditions kind of on point because of the way the wind had been blowing and because of the avalanche cycle had kind of stripped a lot of that out. Maybe but kind of based on what you were saying, we might be looking at the exact inverse of that this year, where the Looker's right side sees way more traffic because if that other side, that rider's right or Looker's left side, doesn't have the coverage, it's if it's not on, then the game is just so fluid.
Yep.
That really we're going to have to wait till face check day to see where people are going to be directing their attention and which part of that face is going to be in play and get the heavy play.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm excited because this is the Canadian event. We'll be both heading out there. I'll be on the mic live on Slope once again. You'll be on the mic on the broadcast as always. So if you guys are out there, if you're listening, you're out there, come and say hi. We're going to have some Freeride Guide stickers in our pockets. I told Derek I'm going to give you a stack, and you're like, all right.
Yeah, and you can ask us some backslap questions in person.
Yeah, in person. Yeah, so come and say hello. Like I said, I'll be on Slope, so if you see me with the mic yelling at people, come by and introduce yourself and say hi. And hope to see you there. If you're listening to this, please make sure you're subscribed on whatever podcast app you're listening to. Follow along, and if you can, give us that 5-star review if you think this show is worth it. We'd really, really appreciate that. You can get it on the LPP YouTube channel, the Low Pressure Podcast YouTube channel. We'll be putting these episodes up on there. The ones that we're able to get filmed. This one we're trying. we got the iPhone out. So we're really stoked that everybody is tuning in, and send us your backslap questions.
Yeah, keep them coming. These are great, and it's so cool to engage with you out there. That it's nice to see this community growing.
I'm surprised that we've been getting so many. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I love it. So it means we're doing something right. So thanks everybody. We love you. Thanks for tuning in. And the next time you hear from us, will most likely, hopefully will be the Kicking Horse recap episode. But you never know. There's been a lot of emergency podcasts, so hopefully we don't have to do another one.
I have faith. This one's just going to be normal.
Yeah, this one's going to be just normal. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will talk to you very soon.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
This has been a RedMark Media production.